ready, kid?
The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift came out while I was still an impressionable, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed teenager. To this day, I hear the first 3 notes of the main theme if I close my eyes in a dark room and wish hard enough. Sure, it wasn't the most important movie for the story of the franchise, but you know what? I cried when Han died. I'll admit it. I also cried like a year ago when I found out that F9 is bringing him back. Like, to life. Wait, if we're going back to Sean and the gang for real, I've got some questions I need F9 to answer pronto. First up, number 1 question on everyone's mind is, obviously, how did Han survive? Look at this. How do you survive this? That man is trapped under a Mazda, first of all. Second of all, like 4 seconds later, it explodes. Now, whether or not F9's explanation for Han's survival is believable is beside the point. I just want to know. Some fans think he might have rolled out just at the last second or that he faked his own death. My bet is on a super secret upside-down ejector seat.
You'll never catch me, Shackleford!
Okay, so Han survived the crash flip explosion, fine. But if he did, why didn't he make himself known to Sean or Dom or any of the guys like immediately? Why wait this long to reveal himself? There's a couple of possibilities that seem likely. One is that Han was injured badly enough that he needed years to recuperate before he was healthy enough to get back into the game. Another theory is that, given that the crash was revealed to be an organized hit by Shaw, maybe with the help of the Yakuza, it's entirely possible that Han needed to stay under the radar to make sure there wouldn't be more attempts on his life, or the lives of his friends. Or, and just hear me out on this one, what if he faked his death with the help of Deckard Shaw? As long as we're retconning Shaw into more of an anti-hero, why not just go on back and explain that this was all a means of shaking up Dom before going for the kill? It's dumb, but let's be honest here. We've seen dumber. Actually, as long as we're plumbing the depths of what-if-ery, let's go back to number 1. Could it be the trailer is hiding its truth in plain sight, poorly dubbing over Han with lines like,
It's good to be back.
and the reality is that Han's really dead and we're actually meeting his secret twin brother? I know, it's a very soap opera twist, but remember, this is a series about, what was that again? Dom?
Family.
Either way, it's just nice to have him back. When we were introduced to Tokyo's illicit racing scene in Tokyo Drift, we also met Neela, an adept racer in her own right, who ends up throwing in her lot with Han's gang. In Furious 7, Neela is still in Tokyo, but it doesn't look like she'll be in F9. While the real-life reason is probably that Natalie Kelly passed on reprising the role, I'm still curious how the new movie will justify her absence from the story. Han and Neela aside, here's another big one. Is Sean still the Drift King? He won the crown at the end of Tokyo Drift, but recent trailers for F9 show Sean visiting Dom and the fam in the United States. So, did Sean walk away from his life of making prolonged turns at high speed, or is this trip just a vacation between races? If we're going back to Tokyo in F9, which it looks like is the case, it bears asking who is in charge of the drift scene now, and is it still the Yakuza? Back in the heady days of Tokyo Drift, it was made clear through Takashi, himself a nephew of a prominent boss, that the Yakuza were playing a key role in everything street racing. Will that still be the case in F9, or will a new crew have taken over, possibly led by Han's attempted murderer, Deckard Shaw? Listen, maybe this is a nitpick, but hear me out. In Tokyo Drift, Han had one of the coolest garages ever. It played an important part in cementing Han's role both in the racing scene generally, but also more specifically as a sort of de facto drifting guru for new racers. So, what happened to it after Han's not quite deadly encounter with a literal car fire? Is the garage still open? Is it potentially like the Tokyo underworld itself under new management? Or is it going to be where the gang finds Han after all these years, biding his time until just now somewhere safe?
Nice clubhouse.
There's always a chance it gets glossed over or straight up forgotten, but I'm hopeful F9 sheds some light on the fate of that sweet, sweet small business. Now, it is worth noting that within the Fast and Furious timeline, which itself is a little confusing, Tokyo Drift takes place after Fast and Furious 6 and during Furious 7, or kind of during Furious 7, partially during Furious 7.
Words ain't even been invented yet.
Anyway, it's a whole confusing mess, but the point is, it really isn't that long ago that these things happened, so really, Han hasn't been hiding out all that long. Last but not least, there's a question that's been eating away at me for years. Will we ever see that mouth-wateringly sleek and speedy 1967 Ford Mustang Custom Fastback again? The one Sean used to beat Takashi and then mysteriously didn't use for his race with Dom at the end? The one I dreamed about in secret every night in high school? Wait, speaking of secret shames, who won that race? Seems unlikely that Dom would lose, since that would sort of compromise his facade of masculine power as the main character in a narrative already bursting with never say die bravado, but we never do actually see the outcome on screen, which means F9 has the right, nay, F9 has the responsibility to fill fans in on which way that particular cookie crumbled. Look, I'm never going to be a teenager again, which is fine, honestly, but it does mean that I'll never again be able to experience Tokyo Drift for the first time with the same frame of mind, and I've been mourning that loss until news about F9 dropped. The flick doesn't hit theaters for a few more weeks, but after 15 years, I can wait 2 more months for my wish to come true.